Coming up on today's show, we're going to react and break down a wild trade idea that involves three teams and Courtland Sutton. Now, before we get to that trade idea, it is the last day of the month, which means this is our last gasp to try and catch up in the subscriber battle here at Chat Sports across all of our NFL channels. Now, unfortunately, we're at 9th, which is not great, but there are 22 teams in the race, so could be a lot worse. But we're only a few subs behind the Cowboys Report at 8. I want to see us jump at least to 8th and take them down, and that'd be a solid showing for the month of June. So join the channel if you have not already and help us continue to grow and be one of the largest Broncos YouTube communities out there. Let's talk Courtland Sutton on today's show because yet again he has been mentioned in a trade idea, and while I don't think there's a great chance we see Sutton get dealt, especially after he showed up to mandatory minicamp, it is the NFL, right? We should have some level of expect the unexpected. Now, this would be very unexpected. It's a 3-team trade from Bleacher Report. Off the top of my head, I could not tell you the last time we saw a 3-team trade go down in the NFL. My guess is it probably goes back to like the 80s or 90s. But in this wild Bleacher Report trade idea, the Denver Broncos receive a 3rd-round pick from the Rams, a future 3rd-round pick from the Steelers. Pittsburgh gets Courtland Sutton for Russell Wilson to throw to, and a 6th-round draft pick from the Rams. And the LA Rams receive Cam Heyward from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're going to break this down, but obviously come from the lens of what does this mean for Denver? My initial reaction to this trade idea is I'm going to pass on this. Now, getting 2 3rd-round picks and a player for Courtland Sutton is not a bad return. I mean, we saw Jerry Jeudy go for a 5th and a 6th. To get 2 thirds and a player for Courtland Sutton, whether or not you think Sutton is better or worse than Jeudy, that's still a pretty big and sizable improvement from what Denver got for Jeudy. Now, the contracts definitely play a big role into those trade compensations, but still, despite getting 2 thirds, I'm actually going to pass on this deal because you have to give Bo Nix a good receiving core his first year. You invested the 12th overall pick in him. Invest in your investment. Spend money to make money. What is the point of going and drafting a rookie quarterback if a few months later you're just going to trade away the number 1 wide receiver he has to throw to? I don't see that as an aid to his development whatsoever. Keep Courtland Sutton for Bo Nix. You may not like Courtland Sutton holding out. You may not feel like he is worth the money he currently makes or is worth the money he is looking for in a raise or a contract extension or whatever it may be. But the reality is he is the number 1 target for Bo Nix. And what's good for Denver is what's good for Bo Nix. And what's good for Bo Nix is Courtland Sutton. The Broncos need Sutton because they need Bo Nix to be successful. Because remember, Sean Payton put all of his chips in the basket of we're going to dump Russell Wilson and his monster contract because I think I can be better with a rookie quarterback named Bo Nix. And now you've got to try and make that plan as successful as possible. And so I think it is crucial to keep Courtland Sutton for Bo Nix's development. So if for anyone watching that's like, I want to trade Courtland Sutton because I don't like him holding out, we don't need him, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to argue about whether or not Courtland Sutton is fairly paid, overpaid, underpaid. What I am going to argue with is if you want the Broncos to be successful, that starts with Bo Nix. And what's going to make Bo Nix as successful as possible? Having 3 good pillars around him. A good offensive line, a good head coach, and a good receiving core. He's got a good offensive line. I think he's got a pretty good head coach in Sean Payton. Don't let that 3rd pillar crumble. And Bo Nix enters the state of, I don't know if he's good or not because he didn't have anyone to throw to his rookie year. And all of a sudden, Broncos country feels like they're wasting their time hoping Bo Nix can be better next year when they have new receivers for him. And then they discover, oh no, Bo Nix just isn't good at all. And we could have answered that question a lot earlier if we gave him good targets to throw to. And even then, there was a problem. So, keep Courtland Sutton. And if you want more reasons, how about this one? We've shared this graphic before. Since 2010, all the rookie quarterbacks, there have only been 2 that had no 750-plus yard wide receiver on the roster. And by 750-plus yard receiver, I mean at any point in their career, they did not have more than 750 yards in a season. Dwayne Haskins, and Brandon Weeden. Now, that's a long list of parameters, but in short, these two quarterbacks had crappy wide receivers their rookie season. And unfortunately, both these quarterbacks struggled their rookie season. Do not add Bo Nix to this list, because if you trade Courtland Sutton away, he will be on this list. There will not be a single wide receiver on this roster who ever went above 750 yards in a season. Don't have him be in this company. This is not a good company to be in. So keep Courtland Sutton. The sooner you know what you have in your quarterback, the better. Like I was saying just a few moments ago, we are all hopeful that Bo Nix is going to be the next Elway, Manning, franchise quarterback for this team. But we have to be honest with one another that every single fan base does this when they draft a rookie quarterback. And it's not a bad thing to do to have that leap of faith hoping the quarterback will be good, but we know how often sometimes that falls flat on his face. So the sooner the Broncos can learn what they have in Bo Nix, the better. Because the one thing that you don't want to waste is time. Time is the most, impactful thing to a fan. You waste 10 years of their fandom, that's torture. And I don't want to see more time wasted on the quarterback carousel. And that's what's been going on since 2015. So if you trade away Courtland Sutton and Bo Nix does not have a good year this season, you know what the number one talking point is going to be across all of Denver media next offseason? Well, he didn't have anyone to throw to. It's not Bo Nix's fault. His number one wide receiver was Marvin Mims, Josh Reynolds, and Tim Patrick. A second-year man, a wide receiver 3, and a guy coming off a torn Achilles and torn ACL. Give him legit weapons to throw to, and you'll see how good Bo Nix can be. Okay, let's say Denver does that, right? Next offseason, they go get some superstar wide receivers. And then Bo Nix turns out to not be so good. Hope that does not happen, but let's say that does happen. Well, all of a sudden, we could have answered that question a lot earlier if you kept Courtland Sutton. So, no. Hard pass on trading Sutton. All because I want to do what's best for Bo Nix and for this fan base to know what they have in their quarterback. So let me know. Are you open to trading Sutton? Give me a yes or give me a no down below in the comments section. I always love to hear what you guys have to say on these topics, so get down in the comment section and chime in for me. Now, one name that was included in that trade that we haven't talked about yet was wide receiver from the Rams, Tutu Atwell, a second-round draft pick in 2021 out of Louisville, I think, and has been a slow development process so far in the Rams organization. His first year, he played in 8 games. He did not touch the football. His second year, 2022, he started to get on the field. 18 grabs, 298 yards, 1 touchdown. And then last year, year 3, we saw some growth. 39 grabs, 483 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, I don't think Tutu Atwell's progress is where the Rams would have hoped it would have been. Like, Puka Nacua surpassed everything Tutu Atwell did in 3 years in about 8 games last year. So I could see the Rams being open to moving on from Atwell. It doesn't look like that's going to be a long-term piece for them in their offense. Now, the other element that was coming to Denver was draft picks, right? The Broncos go into the 2025 NFL draft with 6 picks currently. They're back in round 2 after the Sean Payton trade. So rounds 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't have a 5th-round pick. That belongs to the Dolphins for the Bradley Chubb trade. They do have an extra 6th-round draft pick, though, from trading Albert Okwuegbunam to the Eagles, but they don't have a 7th-round draft pick because they gave up their 7th to get a 6th from Philly in that Albert O trade. So overall, having 6 picks in next year's draft at this point is pretty par for the course, like not terribly above or below the median. Now, I could see maybe a Courtland Sutton trade going down mid-season if he's playing out of his mind and the team's not doing so well for one reason or another, and a team gives him a ridiculous offer that they can't refuse. That could be the only path I see the Broncos going down to move on from Courtland Sutton. If they're confident in Bo Nix, but there are a lot of other holes on this roster, and they can plug those holes next offseason with more draft picks via Courtland Sutton trade, that could be a slim path if by end of October they're like, okay, we know what we have in number 10. We love it. We like it. We love it. It's going to be a great long-term fix for us. But now we got to address some other spots on the roster, and we're not going to win this year. So let's move on from Sutton. But you don't know that if you do that trade before the season, because then you don't have Bo Nix going to his number 1 or what would be the number 1 wide receiver on this team. So circling back on this trade here, 2/3 and Tutu Atwell to Denver, Courtland Sutton and a 4th-round draft pick to the Steelers, and the Rams get Cam Heyward. What do you guys think? I mean, just from an NFL trade perspective, there's some holes in this. The first one being it's a 3-team trade. Those never happen, but I'm not going to, poo-poo on Bleacher Report too much for that. It's June 30th. Like, there's not a whole lot of great NFL content out there, if we're all being honest together. The biggest issue I see with this isn't probably maybe the Broncos turning down this trade because they don't want to move on from Courtland Sutton. If we're just talking NFL here, I don't see why the Rams would do this trade. They move on from a couple of draft picks, and they get Cam Heyward, who's a good, really good defensive tackle, but a 35-year-old DT who wants a 2-year contract extension. The Rams' defensive line, guys, it's really good. Kobe Turner last year was the best rookie defensive lineman in football. He led them all in sacks. Bobby Brown, the nose tackle, is beyond adequate against the run, and that's really what you need from your nose tackle. And then they traded up to get Braden Fisk from Florida State in round 2. So why would they trade up for a guy just to trade for someone at his exact same position? I don't feel like those two coexist very often. So I don't see why the Rams would go and trade for a defensive tackle when their defensive line is young and good, and that's what they want it to be. So with that all being said, would you guys do this trade? A for accept or D for decline? Let me know in the comment section below if you would do it. I'm going to decline this trade. 2 third-round picks is tempting, and I could very well regret this, but for now, I think it is in the Broncos' best interest to get the best out of Bo Nix, and that means keeping Courtland Sutton. Before we get on out of here, another day of summer hot takes. It is a high of 91 degrees today in Denver, so another fajitas plate hot take, which is not the spiciest take I'll give out on the channel, but definitely one of the hotter ones. And non-Broncos related, but just NFL here. Stefan Diggs does not reach 1,000 yards and is a fantasy football bust. I think that Texans fans, rightfully so, should be excited about the trade for Diggs. Cost him a future second-round draft pick. It's all-in mode with C.J. Stroud and his rookie contract. But I do think there is a lot of truth to Stefan Diggs slowing down last year. And not that C.J. Stroud is some massive downgrade from Josh Allen, but as Diggs started to slow down, maybe changing scenery isn't what's going to help him actually. So I'm just going to go on a limb here and say I don't think Diggs is going to put together as great of a year as he has the last couple of years in Buffalo. All right, one last time, let's remind everyone about our subscriber battle in the month of June across all the NFL channels here at Chat Sports. We are currently sitting at 9th out of 22, so I don't want to sound, French and just accept the loss here, but I think we can do better than 9th. I'm proud that we're in the top 10, so don't look at this as, a moral victory or anything like that. But I want to take down the Cowboys report. I'd love to catch up to the Bears and the Giants channel. We're about 150 subs away from getting all the way to 6. So if you are already subscribed, I appreciate you so much for joining. Send it to a friend, send it to a family member, have them subscribe as well. And let's finish at least in 8th for subscribers this month.